In this video, we'll be taking a look at 3 NHL games happening on January 9th, 2026, and providing you with free team picks and total picks for each one of those games, so 6 picks in total. Welcome back to Cash Out Sports. Let's dive right into it. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe and to click the bell icon to get notified as soon as these videos get released so that you have more time to plan out your bets as we provide these videos on a daily basis. I can guarantee that you'll have all the important information that you'll need on these 3 NHL games after fully watching this video. One more thing before we start, if you would like to gain access to our best exclusive sports picks to take your journey to the next level, then check out our Patreon in the link down below where we offer our best single picks, parlay picks, and much more. Now let's get started. Los Angeles Kings versus Winnipeg Jets. Winnipeg will host Los Angeles on Friday night, with the Jets skating the second half of a back-to-back and the Kings stumbling in after a mediocre stretch of 4-5-1 over their last 10 games. With Winnipeg having played on Thursday, Connor Hellebuyck handled that start, so the expectation is that backup Eric Comrie gets the crease here on no rest for the team. Comrie has had a rough season, carrying a 3.49 goals against average and an .880 save percentage, and he has not surrendered fewer than 4 goals in any of his last 4 starts. Even though the Kings are one of the lighter offensive teams in the league, they should still be able to put a few past Comrie given his current form and the back-to-back spot for the Jets. On the flip side, Los Angeles leans on one of the better defensive structures in the NHL, ranking 4th in goals against per game at 2.67. They actually look more reliable when they leave Crypto.com arena, with an 11-5-5 record on the road that makes them feel more comfortable as a visitor than at home. The Jets, meanwhile, just cannot seem to get out of their own way as the losses keep stacking up, and until they show any real course correction, it is tough to feel confident backing them against a disciplined opponent. Los Angeles has clearly been the more trustworthy side away from home this season, and in this spot, with the Jets scrambling and leaning on their backup, the Kings look like the side that can come in, play their game, and walk away with a road result. As our first pick for this matchup, the Los Angeles Kings money line is our full game side pick. Winnipeg, trying to stop the slide, is likely to simplify things and buckle down in the defensive zone to give their goaltender as much help as possible, especially with the fatigue factor from the back-to-back. On the Los Angeles side, key offensive contributors like Trevor Moore and potentially Anze Kopitar being out or limited would only drag down their scoring punch and tilt this matchup toward a tighter, more conservative style. In that kind of script, something like a 3-1 or 2-1 final feels very realistic, where one team gets a small cushion and then leans on structure rather than trading chances. Both clubs are comfortable playing a low-scoring, structured game when the situation calls for it, and this matchup sets up as one of those nights where the scoreboard never really gets out of hand. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. Washington Capitals versus Chicago Blackhawks. Washington gets another crack at Chicago on Friday night, only a week after the Blackhawks slipped past them in overtime, which pretty much sums up how frustrating this recent stretch has been for the Capitals. They have picked up just 3 wins in their last 10 games, and for a team with their profile, that kind of skid feels more like underperforming than collapsing. What makes it a bit puzzling is that Washington still sits inside the top 10 in both goals scored per game and goals allowed per game, so the underlying identity of this group is not falling apart. On top of that, they currently rank 5th in the league in total shots on goal, which usually tells you a team is driving play often enough to expect more consistent results. You can see that upside in their last 2 victories, where they piled up 13 goals, a reminder that this offense can still hit you in waves when it clicks. Chicago, on the other hand, comes in feeling good after 4 straight wins, including 3 in their own building, and streaks like that can build confidence even if the numbers in the background are not spectacular. The Blackhawks are averaging only 2.86 goals per game, which is not exactly a terrifying clip, and asking that level of finishing to beat Washington twice in quick succession feels like a stretch. They are also giving up 29.7 shots per game and allowing 3.12 goals per night, which puts a lot of pressure on their goaltending and structure to hold up against a high-volume shooting team like the Caps. To make things tougher, Chicago sits 5th in power play opportunities against, so they invite trouble by taking penalties, and that kind of loose discipline is usually hard to hide over a longer sample. They managed to skate around some of that sloppiness in the first meeting, but banking on that happening again is asking a lot. It would not be surprising to see Washington come in with a bit of a revenge mindset, lean into their offensive depth, and push hard at a Blackhawks defense that has shown cracks. Chicago brings that 4-game heater into this one and has gone to overtime in 3 of its last 5, which says they have been living on thin margins. At home, the Blackhawks sit at a record of 10-8-4, while Washington owns a 9-8-3 mark on the road, which is very serviceable for a team trying to get back on track. The Capitals have dropped 3 of their last 4 and have given up 4 goals in 3 of those, but that recent wobble does not erase the bigger picture of a very solid defensive group. This spot sets up nicely for a response, with Chicago looking like a team due for a little cool down after running hot for a short stretch. If Washington leans into its usual structure and keeps creating volume, it is reasonable to expect them to steady themselves here against a Blackhawks team whose results have been better than their base numbers. As our first pick for this matchup, the Washington Capitals money line is our full game side pick. Chicago is averaging 2.86 goals per game and converting on 23% of its power play chances, which is a healthy rate when they do get set up with the extra man. Defensively, the Blackhawks are allowing 3.12 goals per contest and killing 84.4% of opposing power plays, so while the penalty kill has been strong, they still give up enough overall that games do not always stay quiet on the scoreboard. On the Washington side, the Capitals are putting up 3.25 goals per game and scoring on 15.3% of their own power play opportunities, which is not an elite conversion rate but pairs with their shot volume to keep them dangerous. Defensively, they allow 2.82 goals per game and kill 77.2% of opponent power plays, which leaves a little room for Chicago to chip in its share if the whistles start coming. Recent form backs the idea of a livelier total, as there have been 6 or more combined goals in 6 of Washington's last 8 games, which is not a fluke stretch for a single night but more of a short-term pattern. With both teams bringing enough offensive capability, some special teams impact in play, and recent trends pointing to higher scores in Capitals games, it is very reasonable to expect this matchup to land on the higher side of the total again. As our second pick for this matchup, over the projected total is our full game total pick. St. Louis Blues versus Utah Mammoth. Utah comes into this matchup in a pretty good rhythm, with 3 wins in their last 4 and only 2 goals or fewer allowed in each of those victories. That kind of defensive stretch gives them a foundation at home, where the Mammoth sit at a solid 10-7-1, compared with St. Louis sitting at 7-10-3 on the road. The Blues have picked up 2 wins in their last 3, but they have also been tagged for at least 6 goals in 2 of their last 4, which tells you how quickly things can unravel for them. Their big issue is consistency, both in structure and in finishing, and that shows up in the fact they are managing just 2.5 goals per game. When a team scores at that level and also struggles to hold leads away from home, it usually has trouble hanging around against opponents that can roll more dangerous lines. St. Louis has also had a hard time keeping road games tight for a full 60 minutes, often fading in the second half and letting things slip away. Utah has enough offensive depth to press that weakness, especially against a Blues defense that is giving up the second most goals in the league. With key-checking forwards like Bjugstad and Walker out of the lineup, St. Louis loses some of the grit and disruption they rely on to slow the game down, and that puts even more pressure on a defensive group that is already stretched. Honestly, that is the type of setup where the home side can tilt the ice, control tempo, and stretch the margin if they stay disciplined. So it is very reasonable to expect Utah to dictate pace here and have a real shot at winning this one by multiple goals rather than sweating a 1-goal coin flip. As our first pick for this matchup, the Utah Mammoth money line is our full game side pick. St. Louis is averaging 2.5 goals per game and allowing 3.43 against, while they are at 16.5% on the power play and 76.5% on the penalty kill this season, which is serviceable but not exactly explosive. Their offense can contribute, especially if they get a few looks with the extra skater, but those rates suggest more of a grind than a constant flurry of chances. Utah, on the other hand, is scoring 3.02 goals per game and allowing 2.84, with a 15.5% power play and an 81.3% penalty kill. That combination fits with what we have seen lately, a team that can score enough but is also comfortable clamping down and keeping opponents in check. If Utah continues to limit chances against the way they have in 3 of their last 4 wins, and if St. Louis keeps scoring at its usual clip, you are probably looking at a final that leans toward a modest total rather than a wild shootout. Here is the thing, both teams have enough structure and special team stability that, while goals will come, the overall pace does not scream high-scoring blowout. So a result that lands under the projected number feels like a very natural outcome given the season-long numbers and the recent defensive form on the Utah side. As our second pick for this matchup, under the projected total is our full game total pick. That's all for now, so if you have any other games you would like reviewed, then leave a comment down below with the game you would like analyzed, subscribe to our channel, leave a like on this video, and we'll get to it as soon as we possibly can. We would also love to hear your opinion on the picks presented to you in this video, whether you agree or disagree with them, so leave a comment down below and do let us know.